It's disgusting. Good morning, everybody. Wake up. Wake up, wake up. In Provincetown. This week featuring Wake up, wake up. Can I have some coffee? Wake up, wake up. Make it strong, please. Hey. Oh. Hey. Wake up, wake up. No, really. Can I have some coffee? Wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up.
Wow, good morning, everybody. It's Friday, January 8th.
Yeah, good morning.
Did you do or see anything exciting this week?
I actually really didn't.
Nothing at all.
Well, here's the thing. So, last Friday, I found out that a person I came into contact with tested positive for COVID. So immediately, me and my roommate, who had also had contact, isolated. So we isolated from Friday until Tuesday, which is when we got a test. Thankfully, we both came back negative.
Did you find out on Tuesday?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah, it was really incredible. I took advantage of the new asymptomatic testing available for free at the Outer Cape here in Provincetown. It was great.
Yeah, I got mine yesterday.
That's Outer Cape?
Yes, I went through the drive-thru and they called me in, I would say less than 15 minutes. I was sitting on my couch, the car was still hot, and they called me to tell me that I had also tested negative because I ran into somebody last week, as you know, and we saw each other for a couple of minutes and I was worried. But
I think as of yesterday, there are 5 active cases here in the Provincetown community, which isn't awful, but
it's the worst that it's been.
Right, not great. Exactly. Right. But I think this testing that has become available to us for asymptomatic testing here in Provincetown for free has come at the perfect time.
Yeah, but I don't know how much longer it is. I think it's only till the 10th.
I think it just got extended, but I might be wrong. Yes, I'm right.
Yes, it's extended.
We
have a great show for you
23rd.
today.
What?
28, whole month.
Gotcha.
Whole month of February.
The whole month of February.
State Senator Julian Sear is here to fact check us and also talk to us later on.
Yes.
We also have a performance with Peter Donnelly. They're celebrating their 30th anniversary of the Coffee House at the Muse, which is an off-season staple if you want to see performances live in winter in Provincetown. You usually get to go to the Muse and do that. This year, of course, it will be virtual, and Monday is the first one. So Peter's going to sing us a song virtually today.
That's really exciting. I love the Muse Coffee House. It's actually the first place I ever performed in Provincetown.
Really?
Yeah, this past, I think, January?
What did you sing?
Desperado by the Eagles.
Oh my God.
It's my go-to. It's so easy. Not that it's easy. It's just like...
It's in your back pocket.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I loved it. It was a really great experience. Peter... and also John Richardson held my hand through it all, which was very necessary at the time. I mean, it's still necessary, but I try to pretend it's not. But,
Good.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you'll get to do one virtually.
That would be really awesome. Yeah, we'll see.
We'll ask Peter about it later.
Yeah.
I had a really exciting week. So I drove to D.C. and I scaled the walls of the Capitol and I stormed the government and helped attempt a coup and an insurrection. No, I didn't do any of that.
No?
No, but I watched it all. I mean...
Yeah, it was wild.
Listen.
It was so wild, my roommate let me put CNN on the TV.
Oh, he doesn't usually let you do that? What does he prefer?
Nothing. He prefers not cable news, which I understand.
Oh, absolutely.
But I came home from a walk. You had texted me while I was on my walk, and I kind of didn't understand what you were saying. You're like, this is crazy. I was like, okay. And then I got home, my roommate's like, we're going to put CNN on. I was like, what happened?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was wild.
There's not normally enough news, I don't think, for a 24, not even a single 24-hour cable news channel, but this was.
Well, that's exactly my roommate's problem with cable news. It's like they repeat themselves constantly and they also sensationalize things to keep people interested. But this past Wednesday, there was no need to sensationalize anything. It was pretty sensational in itself. And there was definitely enough information coming in to keep a constant stream of new information.
Yeah.
And I was on the edge of my seat.
Me too. I mean, even over in the Sean Hannity cinematic universe, they were kind of having to tell the truth about what was going on.
Yeah, what else could they do?
Right. And condemning it. Like, I was like, wow, the people on this channel are even condemning what's going on.
Right. I feel like they're, I don't know, people on the right have been sensationalizing things and using like false facts to get people riled up. And I think they realized that it had gone a step too far with that.
Yeah.
It was really sad to see the destruction and the unrest brought to one of our most important buildings.
Yeah. And I hate to sound like a know-it-all or like a finger wagger, but you know this. My background is in journalism, print journalism, and news is literally just the reporting of facts. It's not some talking head telling you what to think. It's just, this is what happened today. That's what news is. And I think that we as a country and maybe a world need to try to get a little closer to just telling people the truth.
It's become entertainment.
Right.
It's become entertainment to a sense, and it's also become, the idea of like bias in news is like a weird thing because, like you said, it's supposed to be the reporting of facts, but any person speaking fact is going to skew it in a sense of bias. But I do think bias in news has become this weird thing where you have to represent both sides. And it's the idea is like of bias is like, are you biased to a side or are you biased to reality?
Right.
Right. Because like, say there's 100 scientists, 98 of them say climate change is real and 2 of them say it's not. In order to not have bias, you need to have one scientist that says it's not and one say that it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or is like there's 98% of scientists believe this to be true and unbiased opinion is saying that it's true.
Well,
I don't think we're going to break it down here.
We're not. I just want people to know the difference between news and propaganda.
Totally. Yeah.
Consult
It's to be true and unbiased.
What was that?
It was me screaming.
Oh, Jesus. Like, Jonathan? Is Jonathan's face appearing on the screen?
To yell at us?
Answers.
But there was good news that came that very day that was overshadowed.
Oh, yeah. We're going to celebrate that with Julian, I think.
Yeah.
Go for
Raphael Warnock and Ossoff both won their elections.
Georgia's first black senator and Georgia's first Jewish senator, and I think America's first millennial senator.
He's a millennial?
He's 33.
He's 33?
Yeah. What have you accomplished at 33?
A morning talk show based out of Provincetown, Massachusetts.
Take that, John Ossoff.
Yeah. But that's exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is very exciting for Georgia. And I think it's a testament to the power of grassroots campaigning. I think everybody that, starts local and tries to make changes around them and from within, like that's how you make change. You can't live in Massachusetts and complain about how Arizona is running their elections. If you want to change Arizona's elections, move to Arizona.
Yeah. But turnout was the biggest thing when it came to Democratic success in this specific election. There was a 92%. The turnout was 92% of the general election, which is much higher than usual. Usually runoff elections have a much lower turnout compared to a general election or the like a presidential election.
Right.
But this runoff election had more voters than the 2016 presidential election, which is pretty outstanding. And it's really exciting to see more people get involved in the political process and do their civic duty of voting.
Yeah.
It was most specifically due to the black vote in Georgia, as in the highest turnout rates were in precincts that were more than 80% black voters. And yeah, I think there was a new strategy in which rather than trying to the idea of swing voters and trying to get people to vote for Democrat rather than Republican like they had in the past, they kind of took a new approach, which is rather than trying to persuade people who had voted for Republicans in the past to vote for Democrats, they took a new approach of just trying to get more voters out.
New voters, people that have never voted before.
Yeah. And I think that was the success in this election.
Yeah, I hope more and more people continue to vote.
Yeah.
Do their own homework.
And it also shows that you specifically as a person can make a difference by dragging that one friend to the voting booth, checking on your friends, making sure they voted. I know there was a lot of that in this past election, but I think it's everyone's responsibility to make sure that your friends, family, loved ones, acquaintances, coworkers make it to the polls.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what else I did this week?
What?
I try to watch a movie every week so that we have a movie to talk about.
Yeah.
I don't know if you watched this. I wouldn't have watched it, but Peter was like, we absolutely have to watch this Bee Gees documentary.
Peter loves the Bee Gees.
Peter does love the Bee Gees. The movie is called How Can You Mend a Broken Heart? And there's only one Bee Gee left surviving. Two of the three of the four have passed away, even though Andy was never really a Bee Gee, I found out.
Wow.
But
What do you mean?
Well, there's the Bee Gees, and then they had a brother who was like 10 years younger who had a huge solo career.
Yeah.
So he was never a Bee Gee. He was just Andy Gibb. And then when he got a little bit older and started having problems, they were like, well, maybe if we make him a Bee Gee, he'll clean up his life. And then he died. Like right when they were like, you're a Bee Gee now. They had just made a public announcement. Spoiler alert, Andy Gibb died like right then. The other two died, 10 years, 20 years ago. But I've always been a little cynical about their music. Because it can be like that falsetto has always sort of bothered me.
Yeah.
I'm like a little like, Like when I first met Peter, he's going to be embarrassed by this, I hope. But when we first started dating, people were still making each other mix CDs and stuff.
Cute.
And like he put some Bee Gees songs on there and I would skip them.
you bitch.
Because I was just like, oh, this is just so sincere, like overly earnest love songs. But then to watch the men who wrote How Deep Is Your Love talk about the writing of it.
How deep is your love?
No.
Is that the only?
No. Shut up. No. You don't know How Deep Is Your Love by the Bee Gees?
I do. Of course I do.
Oh my God, you're going to give me a headache.
I work at the Red Inn with Peter in control of the music. Of course I know that song.
No, but to watch the people who wrote that song talk about the writing of it, I literally sat there and cried. And I'm like, you have to listen to it with an open heart. And I've always listened to it a little cynically, and I'm going to stop doing it. I was like,
Ah, gorgeous. I prefer the Destiny's Child covers of it all, though.
They covered that?
No, they covered Emotion.
They covered Emotion.
Which I learned mere months ago that was a Bee Gees song originally.
Oh, Jesus.
I mean, that was on Not Writings on the Wall, the one that came after that. And
Survivor.
Yeah. It was on Survivor, and it was one of my favorite tracks. And then I was at the Red Inn opening, and Peter was in control of the music. And it came on, and I was like, I thought that was a Destiny's Child original. I thought Beyonce wrote that song.
Oh, Jesus. No, but
she might have a writing credit on it now.
It is an excellent documentary. Even if you were never a fan of theirs before, like me, you will become one. And you learn so much about their history before they started doing disco. They had a career for 15, 20 years before Saturday Night Fever.
No way.
They reinvented themselves for that era.
Wow.
That falsetto was like phase 2 of the Bee Gees' career.
What did they sound like before? They had chest voices?
Yeah. Wow. I know. So watch that movie. It's so good. You will have a newfound appreciation and respect for those people. Genius musicians and songwriters all.
I actually did have something happen to me this week that was kind of wild and very apropos of the moment. There's been a social media thing that's happened lately. It's called Gays Over COVID.
I know I shouldn't be laughing at this.
It's crazy. When everything first started, the general account Gays Over COVID, I was kind of interested in kind of cheering them on because their initial goal was to kind of out people who were behaving really irresponsibly amongst the pandemic. And these were extreme offenders. They were posting videos of circuit parties with literally hundreds of people in a room dancing, maskless, sweaty to circuit music. And that is extreme and outrageous. And I do feel like that's very inappropriate. And I kind of was like, yeah, call them out. And I do kind of still feel like those extreme cases should be called out. But there was an offshoot that personally attacked me and some of my friends using older pictures and some extreme language and rumor.
What kind of extreme language?
Too extreme for morning talk shows. But it was all, it seemingly is a crazy person that was just making stuff up. The things that he accused me personally of were outrageous to me and anyone who knows me.
What did he accuse you of?
Too extreme for morning television. It was wild. When he accused me of it, I had to laugh because it's just so out there for me,
right,
to have done those things. It was kind of crazy, and it was really just proven that he was just making stuff up.
Do you know who it is?
I did find out who it was.
You did? Who is it?
I can't remember his name.
Oh, come on.
Some Boston crazy person who's using the guise of like outing people being responsible for coronavirus to seemingly get back at people in his life, and using this reputation of what P-Town is to accuse people of bad behavior, like assuming because I live in P-Town I partake in all this bad behavior, which isn't the truth for me, nor the people who live in Provincetown.
Right.
You have your ideas of what happens in Provincetown because you come for 4th of July or whatever. That's not what our community represents here.
Right.
And it's quickly turned from trying to point out bad behavior and protect people to it's like slut shaming, and it's very reminiscent of the slut shaming involved during the HIV and AIDS crisis. It's just not great. It's not a good look for people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm sorry that happened to you.
I have to
I'm sorry
laugh
that
at
happened to Provincetown. Listen,
Yeah.
say whatever you want about Harrison. Do not talk shit on Provincetown.
Ain't that the truth?
Person.
I can take it. Yeah, it was wild and stupid. And I think people need to, through this pandemic, have very much looked inward. I control my own behavior. I steer clear of people whose behavior I don't agree with and I think is irresponsible. But the like social media finger pointing and finger wagging and sensationalizing it all, I don't, as much as you think it's a positive thing to call out people's bad behavior, I think it's just really it's just creating more negativity and terribleness.
Yeah, it's not constructive.
And I'm also not a person who's like, don't be negative. I think in this instance, though, it's like, what's the point?
Right.
Yeah.
Do you want to do Weather and Tides? We got to get Peter on here quickly.
Let's do Weather and Tides after.
Okay. It's time for Peter to sing.
Yeah, let's do Peter.
Yeah. Peter Donnelly, listen.
Oh, yeah.
Peter, are you there?
Peter,
can you hear us?
I lost
Hi.
I lost sound there right at 17 minutes. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Hi, Peter.
Oh,
How are you doing today?
Hi, everybody.
So congratulations on your 30th anniversary of the Coffee House at the Muse.
Thank you very much. It's we started in 1991. I was just moving here to Provincetown, just learning how to play guitar, just learning how to write songs. I was a few months into it all, and I needed a place to play. And I ended up, I knew Ron Robin, and he invited me to play at the Muse restaurant. It was in the old location back then, which is now Harbor Lounge.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were there for a number of years, and ended up at where they are now at 429 Commercial Street. And this was the first year that we were not able to. 2020 was the first year we weren't able to finish the season.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this is our 30th year, and we just didn't want to let it go. So
I know everybody is really grateful that you guys have pivoted to do this because it is the thing to do in the off season, on Mondays especially.
Yeah.
This is going to make everybody so happy.
and so many people have passed through the coffee house over the years. Sometimes people that are just in town, they're like, "Hey, can I borrow your guitar and get up there?" And usually I'm like, "No." But there are so many people that have passed through, and we've had like local greats as well, like Norman Mailer and Kay Clinton, and just lots of people that have helped us out over the years to bring attention to it. And it's actually been a fundraiser for WOMR for the whole 30 years, and then the last, say, 10 years we've been raising money also for Provincetown Theater.
Excellent.
So,
And you will be performing Mondays at 7, and people can watch it on museptown.com and on your and the Muse's Facebook pages as well.
Yes. And we'll probably have at this Monday night is our first Monday night coffee house. It's going to be at the same time as the regular coffee house used to be. So it'll be Monday nights at 7. And we'll have this first night, we're just going to have 2 features. So we have Sarah Burrell and Alex Brewer, 2
Excellent.
really great songwriters and entertainers. So I'm really happy to open up with them. Then there's lots of people, because this is virtual, we have people that have moved away a long time ago, and I've been going through my old calendars. And, so we're going to have folks that haven't lived here in a while come back and do some numbers, and we get to ask, we'll do little interviews too, so we get to ask them some questions and just see where they're at, and where the journey of writing and playing music has taken them.
Excellent.
Awesome. That's really exciting.
This is really exciting.
Yeah.
What are you singing for us today?
Are you ready for a song?
So ready.
I think so.
All right. Well, I've been listening to your show here this morning, and I got my coffee. So I love your show. Thank you so much for having me on. This is really
Thank you, Peter.
a fun thing to do. And you were talking about all the politics at the beginning of the show of this week, which has just been crazy, and also just so many other things. And there's some really great change coming.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought I'd write a song. I'm going to sing a song that I wrote during this COVID period. Let's see.
So,
just got to plug in. And it's called Breathe. So I think some really great changes are coming. There's a vaccine. There's all kinds of things to be looking forward to. And I think we just need to hold on for a while longer and take care of each other. So it's called Breathe.
Awesome. Take it away, Peter.
To be or not to be, just let it be. Let it in, let it out, let it go. Shine your light, shine it bright, let it guide the way. Your light will guide the way. Your light will guide the way. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe on through. Live and love, rest long last. Whatever's true will stay true through time. Whatever is not will fade and fall away. Hold on to what you know. Hold on to all that's dear. But not so tight that it cannot lift and fly. Hold them close. Let them know that love will find a way. That love will find a way. Your love will find a way. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe on through. Live and love and rest long last. Whatever's true will stay true through time. Whatever is not will fade and fall away. Your light will guide the way. Your love will find a way. Light will guide the way. Love will find a way. Your love always finds a way. Love will find a way. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe on through. Live and love and rest long last. Whatever's true will stay true through time. Whatever's not will fade and fall away. Your light will guide the way. Love will find a way. All right, thanks for having me, you guys. Everybody take a breath.
At 7. Oh, thank you so much, Peter, for that beautiful song. Everybody tune in Monday night at 7 to see the first ever virtual coffee house of the Muse.
Yeah, that's really exciting.
7 o'clock on Monday night.
Yeah, I'm glad they found a way to do it virtually because I know that's kind of a lot of people's favorite thing to do every week over the winter.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I'm glad everyone has a chance to do it again. Yeah. Awesome.
Hi.
We had to bring Julian in this week. There were so many exciting things and scary things that happened in the political sphere of our country this week. So we are really excited to have Julian join us here this morning.
Hi,
Julian.
good morning.
How
Just
are
gonna
you?
Take this off. We're 6 feet apart.
Yeah.
We're being vigilant here. What a week. I thought I was going to I had a busy week. It's the end of the legislative session. So the legislative sessions runs every 2 years. A new one starts on January 6th, which I didn't understand would be such a significant day. And so we were in session finishing up a whole host of bills. We did climate change legislation, economic development, transportation, all these things we've been working on. We were actually in session until 4:45 a.m.
Oh my gosh.
A late night. And then I was sworn in again on Wednesday, took an oath to represent the people of the Cape and Islands District and to uphold the U.S. Constitution. I didn't, at the time, realize how significant that would be. We got sworn in at 11, elected our Senate President at 1, and as we were wrapping up, just to witness, what happened in Washington, which is so clearly acts of sedition, traitorous acts. I mean, there's so much to sort of unpack here, right? But the most important the most essential piece here is that, look, these are traitorous acts and traitorous Americans that are instigated by a political demagogue who, right, is a loser in every way, including in this election. And it's just, it's a lot. So it's been a significant time, but there's also so much promise, right? And I guess if that was 2020, it sort of continued into 2021, right? Where we're in such a difficult yet crucial time. And I think what happens now and what happens in the next 12 days and what happens in the next, in this new administration and how we respond to this pandemic really is going to determine, right, the course of our lives, even out here on Land's End.
Right.
Yeah, I think part of being an American and being a patriot is having trust and faith in the systems that have been created. And you have the power built into our system of government as having the power to change anything you want to change. But there is a hard line drawn. You have your right to assembly, but there is a line drawn in what is beyond your
Well, let's be clear. This isn't about assembly or about peaceful protest. This is actually about trying to overthrow one of the branches of our federal government, right? The first branch of our government of the Constitution, right? The Constitution outlines Congress first, right? Because Congress is the most direct representation of the people. And so to have this mob of seditionists who have not only the audacity to sort of stage this stunt, right? But then to see, in a post 9/11 world, people like me, right, really assume that what we've gotten really good at in this country is like we know how to create a bubble, we know how to create security, we have spent billions upon billions of dollars fighting terrorism, and to see that one branch, the most representative branch that's closest to the people of our branch of our federal government, was so vulnerable to domestic terrorism, and this is what this so clearly is, to see that it's so vulnerable to domestic terrorism, and then to see that people aren't even held accountable. I mean, there were 5 times DC law enforcement arrested 5 times the number of people on one day in June as were arrested on January 6th. I mean, that is completely outrageous. I mean, these are domestic terrorists who need to be held accountable. And, I'm encouraged, and I know that the Justice Department and the Biden administration is going to address this in the way that this should be, but these are very clearly domestic terrorists, and we need to be honest about that, and that this truly is a threat to representative democracy, right? If elected representatives can't go about their job representing the people, literally can't go about their job, right? Because they are physically threatened and there's violence brought against them. That is a direct threat to representative democracy, to the 200 plus years of this democratic experiment. We haven't seen something like this happen actually since 1812. And it was a foreign power, the British, who ransacked the United States Capitol. And so, I think the contrasts as well are just so appalling, right? To see the largely peaceful civil disobedience and protest that so many of us, including all of us, were involved in May, in late May, and in June and July, and ongoing in reaction to the murder of George Floyd, demanding Black Lives Matter, to see how those those patriotic Americans, I would say, right, who are trying to push this country to actually live up to its truest ideals, how they were treated, but particularly how Black and brown Americans are treated, in contrast to white supremacists or domestic terrorists. There just has to be a reckoning, and there has to be a change. And if there's anything I'm hopeful about, I think there was such a visceral, for some members, not all, but for some members, the visceral experience of being potentially physically harmed, of having to escape your workplace, right? The Senate chamber of the House, it's a workplace. Mm-hmm. That experience, I think, has rightly shaken people from all walks of life, Democrats, Republicans, Independents, and I hope this spurs some further change. And on top of all that, though, right, we also had so much to celebrate on that day, and so much promise, particularly in the news out of Georgia, particularly in what's what's sort of to come, and so to be so close to such long overdue, needed change, and also just like a restoration of decency. The next 12 days are very anxious and concerning. The president should be removed through the 25th Amendment. If that's not going to be done, I think impeachment's going to start. There's a real question constitutionally whether he can be impeached after he's in office. Mm-hmm. But I think there's a growing consensus that certainly he should be prohibited from ever holding that office again. I mean, he's just a demagogue who so clearly in every way is a loser, and we cannot have this dangerous person serving anymore. I'll just add, I think we need to also recognize that social media platforms have some real culpability here. And the fact that white supremacists and domestic terrorists have been allowed to organize against the United States government on these platforms. Look, we have a very proud, fierce tradition of free speech in this country that I think all of us, especially as queer folks, right, we really defend and are going to go to bat for. But you just look at it in contrast to what international terrorists or terrorists outside of our borders, right, how they've been treated on those platforms. It's very, very different. So there's a lot that needs to come of this. I think a number of us saw this coming, but it's quite the time. But the most important thing, right, is in truth, this was a several hours disruption. Unfortunately, 5 people lost their lives. But the Congress was back at work. They upheld the United States Constitution. And actually just around 4 a.m, the day after we were in session till 4 a.m, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris were ratified to be the next president and vice president of the United States. And that's going to go forward on January 20th. And that is going to make the world of difference.
I mean, you were here the day that Donna Brazile was here, where we talked about how do you reach across the aisle and engage with people. And it's very easy to say, well, 74 million people voted for this and 74 million people like this and agree with it. And I don't think that that's true. Like, it's very hard for me to believe that half the country liked what they saw on the television that day.
I don't think it's true either. And I know this because, look, I represent about 180,000 people in the Cape Lions district. And when I first ran for office, especially in 2016, when I was up for re-election in 2018, right, we went door to door. I've had conversations with people from all walks of life. I've had conversations with people who voted for Donald Trump, who support Donald Trump, who also voted for me, right? And there's a pretty big gulf between, this demagogue and, a 30-something-year-old queer kid from Truro. I don't think those voters, I think most good, decent people that I know were horrified and disgusted by that. And if they aren't, it likely is how they're receiving that information, right? Sort of what they're seeing. And so I do really think we need to focus on healing and on bringing folks together. I think we need to hold these domestic terrorists accountable, and we need to actively go after them as aggressively as we went after Al-Qaeda, because it poses as significant, if not more of a threat. But we also need to understand that this fraying of sort of the fabric that brings us together. We got to find ways to kind of pull one another together. And that's my sense, right? In talking to, my colleagues, look, I serve with a number of Republicans who represent Cape Cod. They were horrified long before this. And they view this very clearly for what it is. The governor views this very clearly for what it is. And so I think it is really important that we both, we need to stem what's a very significant threat to our security and to our prosperity, which is white supremacists and domestic terrorists. But then we also need to find ways to sort of, bring folks together and to also demonstrate that government can work again. And you look, that may mean putting aside some really big, important, progressive priorities, right? That we all really care about. But I think we've got to find a real path forward. And I am actually confident that I think Joe Biden and Kamala Harris bring a life experience and a set of skills and an understanding of legislating. I think that hopefully will move us forward, and it'll be a heck of a lot easier to do now because, the Democrats are going to control the United States Senate. It's going to be a divided Senate, right? But it's going to mean we're going to be able to actually bring a climate bill to the floor, right? And there are Republicans who support this, right? We're going to be able to bring civil rights legislation and protections for LGBTQ people to the floor, right? We're going to be able to bring so many, all of the president-elect's nominees, right, are going to be able to have an up or down vote as they deserve. And so I think that's going to move us forward. But I think if anything, the last several months since this election until now, we are more divided than I think we ever perceived or thought. Maybe a little less so in Massachusetts. Massachusetts pretty resoundingly is not a fan of what's going on nationally in this era. So it's challenging. It's emotionally draining. I think there's some real important outrage and exhaustion, particularly that Americans of color feel just in seeing the real contrast between how there's just a lot of work there, but all taken together, I'm kind of hopeful.
You can say it. There's a huge disparity between how a black person holding a sign in the middle of the street
110%.
versus a white person scaling the Capitol.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine black and brown protesters, or even queer protesters, or the Women's March even, scaling the Capitol, bringing chemical weapons into the building, ransacking offices, and then basically being sort of gently escorted out? It's unfathomable. And for those of us who serve in government, just the fact that this happened. I've worked I worked for the Clinton Global Initiative. I interned at the Obama White House. I've worked in state government. I know how details work, right? How security works. When you're doing this work, especially when you're in the State House or in the Congress, you have a perception that there's, public servants who are keeping you safe. The fact that it didn't happen, and that there's some real, some big answers, questions need to be answered. There's a whole lot, but there's also, there's some really. There's a lot we've been able to get done that have been really exciting and important too.
You're signing a bill later today too, right?
I'm hoping that the silver lining in all of this is that, when you speak of unity, I'm hoping that we can unify as a country in saying that is not acceptable.
Exactly, right?
I'm hoping that is the unifying moment that we can take out of this.
Look, we can disagree politically on a whole host of things, right? And we can even disagree on some of the more essential things, which is really hard to do, especially when some of that disagreement is, basically violates, whether or not we're able to live our lives as we want to live our lives, right? But that is just, the line was crossed long, long ago. But this just should really solidify. I think anyone who thinks that's acceptable, this is domestic terrorism, pure and simple, that has been fed by white supremacy, and there's a long, long history of this. And to have this demagogue president who has lit a match, that is just unacceptable. And I really haven't heard from and don't know any decent people who feel otherwise. Look, I'm sure we know there are some, but we've got to draw a line there, certainly.
Let's talk about something really happy. Aside from you being sworn in again, you have a lot of...
it's my third term.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you. It was a little different, right? it was a remote swearing in, and we had been in session to 4:45 a.m. and then you had to basically turn around and talk about an all-nighter, right? And we now vote remotely in part to kind of keep everyone safe for COVID-19. So you're just like, anyway, it was an interesting all-nighter, but we got some big important stuff done, and then to turn around and be sworn into my third term. A little different. Usually you have, everyone kind of gathers together and you're able to sort of celebrate. This was more sort of me standing in front of my my little camera thing and taking an oath. What
We did.
I was wearing proper. I wore like proper pants. I wasn't wearing sweatpants. I mean, like
For the occasion.
look, there's for the occasion. Like, I mean, there's many a time where you're like, on top all dressed, and then you're like.
No, we just figured that January 6th was supposed to be this really celebratory moment for people like you, for people like John Ossoff and Raphael Warnock. And so I'm sorry you didn't get to celebrate like you normally would have, but we thought about that. And so we brought you a little champagne so that you could have your celebratory moment now with us.
Let's celebrate. Ooh,
Congratulations, Julian.
It's the
Thank
good
you.
stuff,
Look at
too.
these. Oh, wow. Jeez. A little Bill Clinton throwback music.
Yes.
Thanks, babe.
You're welcome.
Cheers to you,
Hey,
Julian.
thank you. Cheers to you guys, too. It's been a wild year, right? I'm glad to see it gone, but, brighter things. And people have also been making it work, right? And you two are an example of that, mixing things up and doing good things in our community. So, cheers.
I did want to thank you for your work as of late with COVID testing. You've been instrumental and also very vocal about bringing more COVID testing to the Outer Cape. And me and Bob both were lucky enough to take advantage of some of
Thank you for that.
Yeah, you had a really good experience, right? Both of you did.
It was great.
Lickety-split.
This is, and Outer Cape Health Services deserves just so much credit. I mean, they are incredible. I think folks really, really should appreciate and treasure this remarkable resource that we have. Look, they're what we've got. Provincetown is the community that is furthest from a hospital anywhere in the Commonwealth. Anywhere, right? So you can be in like Central Mass, Western Mass, somewhere in a little health town. You're closer to a hospital than we are here in Provincetown. And Outer Cape just moved mountains to make this happen. And to see it rolling out, I too was tested when the program was just rolled out before Christmas. I arrived in Wellfleet at like 2:03, was swabbed, had my results at 2:37. So it's been a long road to get us a testing.
Mm-hmm.
There's really been some inadequacy in the distribution of testing here on Cape Cod versus elsewhere. But we were able to figure it out. Thanks to Outer Cape Health Services, Cape Cod Healthcare has been just totally remarkable in this too. And I think the one strength we really have as a region is we do really pull together, right? We all work together. I work with Democrats and Republicans, right, who represent this region. And look, we got some disagreements on some fundamental things, but 9 out of 10 of the things that I address in my work, and 9 out of 10 of the often the work, so much of the work of government, right? It's actually not partisan work, right? Mm-hmm. It's about helping people, particularly in this most difficult moment. So the testing we're pretty proud of, although it's been a long time coming. And then the vaccine, we're working on a vaccine rollout. Really, though, need to urge people to be patient. I know this has been a frustrating situation. When I get frustrated, I looked at two things to blame. One is just the ineptitude of this current federal government and the just real abdication of everything, not only decency, but actually governing. And then, look, we have this fragmented market-based healthcare system here in Massachusetts and across the country. And I think it really is changing. It's really affected our ability to respond, right? So if you look at how our peer nations have been able to respond, part of how they've been able to do better is by having an equitable, robust, publicly funded healthcare system. And we don't have that here.
Right.
In Massachusetts, we probably have one of the closer things to it and have probably one of the best healthcare systems in the country. But still, this fragmented system has created such vulnerability for us, and it has made it will be making the logistics of distributing vaccinations, which are so complicated, all that much harder. And so, look, I get that people are frustrated. I get that people are anxious. Big shout out to Sarah Peake, who in a recent healthcare bill that we passed, is the bill I'm going to go up to Boston today for the signing ceremony about. We included language, Sarah filed language and got language, and we sustained it in the final bill about requiring coverage for a whole suite of COVID-19 related services, including asymptomatic testing for a certain subset of workers. We enumerate restaurant workers and hospitality workers in there, right? Knowing that even as we go into next summer, as the vaccine's still being rolling out, people are gonna need access to testing. And, unlike last summer, right? When you'd be like, hey, I'm working 6 shifts at the Red Inn. I'd like to get a COVID test. How do I do that? My insurance won't cover it. It'll now be covered, and you'll be able to get access to it.
That's great.
So
also,
that's all Sarah's work.
These free asymptomatic tests have proven to be so important. Since the asymptomatic free testing has taken place, 60% of positive cases on the Outer Cape have been found through these asymptomatic testing, which is really going to do some really great work to stem the spread of the virus here on the Outer Cape.
Well, exactly, right? Because, if you're able to get a COVID-19 test, you don't have symptoms. You probably wouldn't think you were sick. You get the test. That's going to really change your behavior. It's going to say, all right, look, I need to quarantine for at least 7 days. I need to get another test. I need to talk to anyone I've come into contact with. Really, the more we can get to universal testing, the more we can get this a lot like, frankly, how we've done HIV prevention, especially in a world before PrEP, right? Where we worked so hard and for almost 15, 20 years, we had free on-demand testing, right? You can get an HIV test when you want, when you need it. That's how we really should be addressing COVID-19. I mean, there's so many lessons, right, that really have informed the COVID-19 response from the HIV epidemic, which here in Provincetown we have a proud history about.
Can I ask you something about the vaccine rollout? So do you know anybody in town that's gotten their first dose yet? Have our healthcare?
I do.
You do?
Of course Seashore Point was all vaccinated on Wednesday.
Excellent.
Dan McGee, my trainer, was vaccinated on Wednesday because he works at the, I think he's okay with me saying that publicly. He works at Seashore Point. So I believe the residents and staff at Seashore Point were vaccinated. Staff at Cape Cod Hospital have already been vaccinated.
I saw Lakia Mondale posted that she got her first.
Great. So essential workers, first responders are going to get vaccinated next week and the week after. So police and fire will all be vaccinated. Then we're focusing on congregate care settings, right? If you live in, you're someone who lives in sort of state-supported housing for those with developmental disabilities or mental health challenges.
What about restaurant workers?
We're not there yet on restaurant workers, though. The fact that restaurant workers are enumerated now in law to cover asymptomatic testing with insurance coverage, that's going to be a big deal. In this economic development package we passed, there's a $21 million fund for restaurants. Restaurants have been just so hard hit. I almost feel that we've been a little fortunate as far as the calendars worked, right? I really expected we'd have a really devastating season. We had a muted season, but was much more than we thought it would be.
Absolutely.
And now, look, we're at a very dangerous time for COVID-19 in Cape Cod. There was over 1,000 new COVID cases on Cape Cod in the 14 days leading up to Christmas. We're going to see even more than that. The hospital, Cape Cod Hospital, Falmouth Hospital, have never had more patients right now. They're not at capacity, but it's very substantial. But hopefully with a vaccine and also just a bit with the seasonality of this, I hope that next summer, at worst will look like summer 2020 looked, and that was really challenging and difficult, but certainly not as bad as a lot of other communities.
Absolutely.
I think of the restaurant industry and community in Boston, and it's just a whole challenging time. But
they just shut Boston down for a few weeks, right?
Yeah, which is a good sort of decision. I also think, when you talk to business owners, and I really have this perspective. Look, I spent 14 years waiting on tables, which is it'll take me 7 terms doing this to sort of surpass my restaurant service. But I think predictability is really important, and so I think sometimes actually having the opportunity to be like, you know what, we're just going to shut down. We're going to take sort of a breather there. That's actually then keeping your doors open, not having people come through the doors. So we got to do what we got to do. Hopefully with this new federal administration, the Biden-Harris administration, particularly taking the Senate, right? This is why Raphael Warnock and John Ossoff are so important, right? We're going to see another round of stimulus. We're going to see support for states. We're going to get resources for towns, for states. It's going to be a real big deal. You may see $2,000 stimulus checks.
I set it down.
No, I didn't.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us
No,
today,
thank you for having me.
Yeah.
It's a trying, difficult time. Stay safe. I think we really need people to, stay vigilant. This is going to be a long, dark, hard winter. We're so fortunate here on the Outer Cape, right? You can. I basically have moved all my socializing to sort of walks, right? So when the weather's cooperating and you bundle up, you go out there and you just, you're able to connect with people and enjoy this beautiful place. But really urging people to continue to stay vigilant through this tough time. And I think we have better days are coming. So
let's go to Watson.
Yeah, absolutely. You got it.
I know you're going to get to Boston and sign some bills.
I'm not signing. The governor signs. I just sort of stand there in a mask and try to look cute for a photo. So.
You don't have to try.
Aww.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Julian. Have a really great day.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time, Julian.
Cheers.
Cheers.
We always.
That's
yeah,
right.
Please.
That is right. What are you going to do with your stimulus check?
Buy a house.
Pay the electric bill.
Yeah, I love that we bring in Julian whenever we can't really wrap our brain around politics because he's so well-spoken, so thoughtful, and so well-informed, obviously.
It's nice to have a friend that's in it and
Yeah.
doing it and working in it and can try to explain it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, to switch gears, one thing I was able to do while I isolated after my little potential exposure to COVID-19, one thing I was able to do while I stayed in and isolated was watch the premiere of Rupaul's Drag Race.
That's right. That was last Friday.
Yeah, did you get a chance to watch?
Most of it.
Most of it.
I watched all the lip syncs.
Okay, good.
And then I stopped.
Because I did a little thing, and I want you to be at least aware of who's on the show.
Oh yes, I know. I'm aware of who's on it.
Good. So I'm what you might call a Drag Race super fan. I've seen every episode. I think I watched the first episode when it aired, and it was when I was a very young gay, and I like drag. I was didn't really know a lot about, and it kind of opened my eyes to this world of drag, and I love drag so much. And I love Drag Race. And us here in the Provincetown community, we are a little more connected to Drag Race than I would say the rest of the country and world, because we've had so many of the incredible performers that have been featured on the show stop through town for shows. We've had Trixie Mattel, Courtney Act, Milk,
Bende La Creme, Jinx Monsoon.
Jinx lives here sometimes.
Bianca performs at Town Hall.
Yeah, so we're really well connected to the Drag Race community, and we're so lucky and fortunate to have that. But one of my favorite episode of Drag Race every season is Snatch Game.
It can be very oof.
Yeah, there's always some oof moments, but some of the most incredible performances out of the whole show run are always Snatch Game. We've had Bende La Creme has done it twice, some really incredible
She win both
performances.
times?
I think she did.
Who did she do?
The first one she did was
Maggie Smith.
Maggie Smith, which was mind-blowing. The second one she did was Paul Lind, which was great.
That was funny.
Yeah, and I'm hoping for some more iconic performances on this season's Snatch Game. And in anticipation, I put together some, I don't know what to call them, predictions, hopeful
requests.
I know it's a little late. Suggestions. But I did some pairings of some of the queens that are on the season with some celebrities that I would love to see them perform on Snatch Game. Obviously, it's already happened. I have no idea who anyone performs. No one broke their NDA on my end.
How many predictions did you make?
I did 6.
You did 6. If you get 3 out of 6 right, I'm taking you to lunch.
Ooh. So let's get going with the first one. I'll start with Gottmik. Gottmik is a really exciting queen to have on this season. They are a trans male contestant, which is pretty groundbreaking considering RuPaul has had some not so great things to not that she said bad things, but just things
she's had to learn.
Yeah, she's had to learn. But I would love to have Gottmik perform as Robin.
cute.
I think visually it would work. Robin is a queer icon.
Mhm.
You could rock her adorable little bowl cut. She has that really like soft lilting Swedish. She's Swedish.
Mhm.
Swedish accent, the fur top. Like I think you could really do it well, and I think Gottmik could do it really
the
well.
punching dance
Yes,
moves.
the punching dance moves. So that's one I not predict, but hope that Gottmik might do. I think my next one is Utica Queen.
Mhm.
Utica Queen really kind of surprised people this past week's episode. She was very fun and funky and kind of wacky. So people have done male celebrities before in the past, and I am going to kind of suggest that she do Jim Carrey.
In green face
In
or
green-
any jeans?
I just think you have to, if you're going to do a male character, you have to do it in a very draggy way. And I feel like a way to do that in a very draggy way is to do maybe his character from The Mask in the green face, the yellow look.
Mhm.
I think
that would be really good.
Yeah, and I think Utica Queen has kind of like the physical comedy chops
Mhm.
based on her lip sync performance to pull off Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey is a perfect person to do. He has catchphrases. He has a way of talking. He has a physical look to him. And I also think if you're not going to do the Mask one, you could also do Ace Ventura with the hair and the Hawaiian shirt. It could be really cute.
Yes.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Next, I think Olivia Lux
Mhm.
would be a fabulous Chi-Chi from Tu Wong Fu, John Leguizamo's character.
She's your pick for the season, right?
I love her. She's really fantastic. I think she has kind of like, she's very much proven that she has kind of the sweet likability that Chi-Chi obviously had, but I think she's got a little fire in her, which Chi-Chi definitely had. Chi-Chi had some really incredible catchphrases, like that's how you pick up a lady, right? Or that's how you
This
treat
is
a lady.
Tu Wong Fu,
Yeah,
right?
Tu Wong Fu. So I would love to see Olivia do that. You could do the iconic look with like the denim shirt and the little
Mhm.
tie on the hair. Another one who I love Olivia, but this might be tied for favorite, which is Simone. She really blew me away
She's so
with her
good.
charisma. This past week's episode, you literally couldn't look away from her. I just was gagged by her every little face she made, and I feel like
Doing Janet. She lip synced
she
to
did Janet's, yeah. But I think an incredible celebrity to do is Chris Tucker, but as Ruby Road from The Fifth Element. You remember Ruby?
Yes. Yeah.
I think she has kind of that like over the top charisma that Chris Tucker brought to the character of Ruby Road,
Mhm.
and I think she could pull it off really well. There's a couple looks you could do. You could do the blonde cone with the like boat neck with the roses in it. You remember?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, I remember.
I think Simone would be incredible as that. Who do I have left? Oh, Tina Burner. Tina Burner really showed off her quick wit this
Mhm.
past episode and kind of like her body humor. And I think the perfect person to do, not only because she could pull it off, but she kind of looks like this person to me,
Ooh.
which is Bette Midler. I think if she did an old school kind of 80s body bathhouse Bette Midler with the sharp tongue,
What about Bette Midler from Hocus Pocus?
or that works too. But I would love to see Tina Burner as Bette Midler. And I think I have one more. Oh yeah, one more. It's another male celebrity.
Mhm.
I would love to see Rose do Adam Lambert.
Oh.
I had that idea. I saw her in her confessional look, and she kind of looks like Adam Lambert. She is a singer. I don't know if she has the kind of like the voice that Adam Lambert has, such an incredible, unique
Right.
voice, kind of like that windy high range. But I think she could pull it off, and that's another male character that you could easily do as a drag look because of he's always got the smoky eye and the flat ironed hair.
You're also saying that you think these 6 people will make it that far.
I hope so. There's 6 of my favorites, so I hope they all make it that far. I love Snatch Game,
And
and
we're talking like a month from now.
yeah, it's usually I love when they do it sooner in the seasons. You see more queens. They do it when there's 8. Sometimes they do it when there's a smaller number, but it's my favorite episode, so I like the most girls possible to be on it. Yeah. Those are the predictions I have. I'm excited to see whoever ends up on Snatch Game and their celebrities they do, and I'm sure they'll all do great performances. But yeah, I would love to see those people.
Well, if all 6 of them make it to Snatch Game, you're buying me lunch.
Wait, why would I buy you lunch?
I don't know. Because I want lunch.
Well, those are my predictions. I
hope you're right.
I love Drag Race. There's another episode on tonight. I'm sure you can find last week's episode if you're behind to catch up in time for tonight's episode.
And you said that it was the most watched episode ever.
It is the most watched episode ever. It's also really exciting. Drag Race started as this really small show on Logo TV, which is a queer channel,
Mhm.
and it's since grown to be so big. A few years ago, they moved to VH1, which was really exciting to be on like a cable a cable network. But this season is actually the first one. It's actually going to be on the CW, which is network.
It's
public.
I think it's still cable, but they're just getting bigger.
Yeah, they're just getting bigger. That channel reaches more people than even VH1 does, so that's really exciting. And I feel like it's to be said that Drag Race is such an incredible show, not for bringing anywhere from 10 to 15 queer performers on your television every week, but those queer performers are also mostly typical femme queer performers, which I think is really important, and also queer people of color. I just think it's definitely one of the most diverse casts you'll ever find on a reality show, and I think that is to be applauded.
Agreed.
Yeah. Awesome. I'm excited for tonight's episode. They left last one at a cliffhanger, so
I'll find that out when I finish last week's episode.
yeah. I have a theory about what's going to happen, but we'll see.
Oh.
Yeah. Awesome. You know there's going to be more twists. They always bring you the twists. Yeah.
Are we going to play a game?
No.
We're not?
What time is it?
I don't know.
Yeah, it's 10:03. Let's wrap it up. We'll save our game for next week.
Yeah, we're going to play this game next week where you can win a prize, you guys. We ran out of time.
Yeah.
What a packed show.
We just had to let Julian talk as much as he wanted because every word that came out of his mouth was incredible.
And it's very serious times.
Oh, yeah.
But also
Awesome.
take time to celebrate the good stuff.
Yeah,
you guys.
Happy New Year. Happy Democrats having the Senate, executive, and Congress.
I hope they can get some shit done.
I'm sure they will. There's some really incredible voices, incredible people that are representing all of us.
Yeah. Thank you for waking up in Provincetown.
Cheers. Wherever you are. Bye, guys. See you next week.
I don't think it's playing this song.
Didn't Bill Clinton do like a saxophone solo in it?
If you